So I shot a spec ad with no budget and some pretty cheap gear. So let's talk about it. So if you haven't seen the spec ad that I did for Mall Grab Coffee, I released it last week. You can check it out right up there. But yeah, I shot this with my buddy Eric J. Coons, and I have to give a big shout out to him because he was a really big part of what made this whole project work. I also do have to thank Westy from Mall Grab Coffee for sending me over a few bags so I could shoot this little spec ad. So yeah, the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was pre-production. When I was trying to figure out the locations and who was going to be in it, my buddy Eric actually was the perfect person for this little spec ad because not only is he a skateboarder and a YouTuber, but he has also created a map with a bunch of different skate spots here in Dallas. Now, I didn't do any like storyboarding or anything like that, but what I did do, and I think this is really important, is I kept shot ideas on my iPad. So what I would do is I would go and I looked through a lot of the skate videos or, you know, ads with skateboarding in it. And I would take screenshots and just kind of like write on the photo on my iPad and just kind of like give myself little notes of like what I wanted to do for the shot. So I would write like follow shot or pan or whatever. And I kind of had that iPad with me for the entire shoot so I could just go back, look at what shots I wanted to get, and then I could also ad-lib as well. But one thing I just really didn't want to do was to show up on the shoot day and just kind of be scratching my head and wasting Eric's time. The other thing as far as pre-production went that I made sure that we were both on board for was to wake up early and start shooting early in the morning when the sun is good. And we stopped right about when the sun got to like high noon because everything just starts looking really bad when the sun's too high in the sky. And then we met up again in the evening, and that's when we shot in that big ditch, and that's when the sun was really nice. And that's kind of where I got the shots that I am most stoked on. And since this was just going to be like a montage commercial, there really isn't like a storyboard that's needed because it's just kind of like a mesh of a bunch of clips all in one, which I feel like kind of adds to the whole skateboarder vibe of this video. One thing that I really didn't want to do was to make it just like another in my kitchen coffee ad because I feel like those are just a little bit overdone, and I wanted to make it a little bit more like a lifestyle commercial, I guess. This coffee brand is called Mall Grab, which is, you know, it's owned by a skateboarder and it gives back to skateboarding, and Mall Grab itself is a skateboarder term. So I really wanted to have a really heavy focus on the skateboarding and just have the coffee be an element within the video. So before we get into the gear that I was using, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creative and curious people. So whether it's photography, video, design, Skillshare has literally thousands of inspiring classes that can help you gain more knowledge in whatever subject you're interested in. A Skillshare class I stumbled across and can definitely recommend is Good Lighting for Film and Video at Any Budget. In this class, Halise gives you a great introduction on how to light your videos properly and does it with easily accessible gear. Now, what's really cool that the first 1,000 people that click the link in the description below are going to get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. And I say this a lot, but I really think you guys are going to enjoy Skillshare. I know that I do. So click that link, get yourself a 1-month free trial, and go learn something new. Once again, big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So I shot this whole ad on my Olympus E-M1 Mark II. Love this camera, and if you want to see kind of how I rigged it out for this shoot, I had an entire video that I posted a few weeks ago. You can check that out right up there. But yeah, this is a great camera. I shot everything handheld basically, so I didn't use a gimbal, but I did shoot on my skateboard a lot. I did that for a lot of like the tracking shots. So that kind of, you know, brings me back to my roots of filming skateboarding. I usually ride on my skateboard a lot when I was filming skateboarding back in the day. And if you're going to be doing this, obviously you need to know how to skateboard, but you should definitely set up a filmer board. So maybe a board that has soft wheels. So 1, it's going to be quiet, and 2, you can roll over cracks a lot easier. The lenses that I used was my Sigma 16mm and the Sigma 30. Those are 2 great lenses, just wide enough on the 16 to not be super wide and just tight enough to be a little bit over the 50mm equivalent field of view, but not quite at the 85 for telephoto. So I really like these 2 Sigma lenses. They're very sharp, and I did shoot with the 7 Artisans black mist filter a little bit, but I actually decided to take it off and just shoot bare lens for a good portion of the video because I really just wanted it to look really nice and clean. Something else that I used was just a simple 5-in-1 reflector to diffuse some of the light, and I also used it as some negative fill. If I was going to go back and do this over again, I would probably want some kind of a assistant with me, like just someone to help holding the 5-in-1 reflector, just because it was a little bit awkward trying to like hold the 5-in-1 reflector, but also work the camera and then direct Eric. So that was a little bit difficult. And the next time I do this, I definitely want to have just another pair of hands to help me. But yeah, those are the only real pieces of gear. And I just used a really cheap tripod that I had with a ball head. I didn't do any like pans or tilts on my tripod. Just all of the locked off stuff was a super cheap tripod and a super cheap ball head. So yeah, actually shooting it, again, everything was handheld, and I just kind of looked at my iPad, saw all the shots that I wanted to get, and then I just kind of made up a few shots. And I really wanted to shoot as much as I could so that I had a really good variety of shots for making this video. So when in doubt, always shoot more. Even if you've got all the shots done on your shot list, shoot more just in case you need some extra filler shots depending on how you're going to edit the video. Now let's get into the grading, which was one of the funnest parts of this video and something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And one really crucial piece of software that I was using to grade the footage coming from the E-M1 Mark II was actually Cinematch. Since I shot this whole thing in OM-Log 400, I really wanted to convert it into a color space that was a little bit easier to work with. The problem with the E-M1 Mark II is not necessarily that it's a bad log profile. Like OM-Log isn't necessarily bad, it's just there isn't really a lot of information on it. There's only a handful of people that shoot with the E-M1 Mark II as far as like filmmakers go, and so there isn't a lot of LUTs or a lot of tutorials on how to work with this OM-Log footage properly. So I kind of wanted to convert it into a color space that was a little bit easier to work with and that there was a lot more LUTs made for. With all that being said, I do have my own LUTs for OM-Log 400 that I really do like, and they are available on my website for purchase. And I recently released a guide for the E-M1 Mark II. It's kind of like a quick start guide. So if you have this camera and you kind of just want to know how I set it up and all the quirks and all the gear that I recommend with it, I just released a little PDF guide that you can go check out. It's for sale on my website as well. So yeah, I use Cinematch to convert the OM-Log 400, and I actually converted it into S-Log 2 because I feel like this is a Sony sensor on this E-M1 Mark II, and I figure why don't I convert it into S-Log 2. S-Log 2 is a log profile that has been worked with on 8-bit footage a lot. So I switched it into S-Log 2. I used a S-Log 2 to Rec. 709 LUT on it, and then I just messed with the image from there to get my skin tones and colors looking the way that I wanted them to look. So as far as sound, I get all my music from MusicBed, but I did get a lot of my sound effects from different sound libraries that I go to online, and I also recorded my own sound effects too. So I went out and I did a lot of the skateboarding sounds and kind of added them in afterwards, because even though I did get scratch audio on the day, it just never really sounds as good as recording it afterwards and kind of building up your sound design. Sound is one thing that I'm just not really that good at yet, and I'm trying to get better at it. So yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. If you'd like to check out the last project that I did that was kind of like this, you can click right over there, and then the behind the scenes is right over there. Once again, big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Another big shout out to Eric J. Coons. Definitely go check out his channel. It'll be in the description below. And to Westy from Grab. Thanks again. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Later.